The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
It is time. Now we're in the third hour. Ladies and gentlemen.
It's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
I have been waiting for the Ness all week. The goodness, the wonderfulness, analysis from our Princess Ness, the High Princess. Well, she wasn't at that grinder party either in Washington, D.C. with all that. I asked her, were you there at the grinder? Oh, dear. Well, it was the big thing in Washington. Who knew? The big event, the biggest thing in Washington was the grinder party up until the White House thing. And you didn't go. I know you must have been invited.
Oh, for goodness sakes. James, I was going to say it's so great to talk to you, the Duke of Democracy, but now I'm going to rescind that because I don't want to go there.
But I just said it, and just because you're invited, it just means you're a bigwig. I didn't mean you're going.
I have not been invited. I would not be invited. And were you invited? You seem focused on it.
I'm not a bigwig. Okay? I'm just a little country boy trying to make my way in the world. I don't get invited to the elite. This is for the elite. I'm not the elite.
Well, you are a bigwig elite to me and your audience, so there.
Well, thank you. Well, Princess Diana, let's just get started. Let me play some things, and let me just play one soundbite or two. And cut 22. This is what we got this week. To me, one of the biggest stories, not just of the year, but of years. This.
According to the indictment, between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front. Now, as the indictment lays out, after SPLC paid members of these extremist groups, it created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to. And to that end, it was doing the exact opposite of what it's told its donors it was doing. Not dismantling extremism, but funding it. To carry out this scheme, SPLC created bank accounts in the name of at least 5 completely fictitious organizations that had no bona fide employees or legitimate business purpose. The money was passed from SPLC to one sham account to a second sham account and then loaded onto prepaid cards to give to the members of the extremist groups. This was designed to shield the source of those funds, and because of this, SPLC is also charged with one count, as I said earlier, of conspiracy to commit money laundering. In conclusion, I want to thank the acting U.S. Attorney and the Middle District of Alabama.
Let's move to the next soundbite. Very quickly, Princess Diana, just be patient with me. I'm going to get to your analysis really soon, but I just want to play this too. Cut 19. This was on Fox after the press conference. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche.
Mr. Acting Attorney General, how did they get away with this for so long?
I mean, it's a great question. I said today during the press conference that we know that this investigation was opened during the Biden administration and then mysteriously closed. I really don't have any information about why it was closed. And then we started again last year, the FBI did, working with the U.S. Attorney in Alabama. And it's extraordinarily egregious. You just talked about it. But imagine a donor to the SPLC if they were told, by the way, we're going to give the money you're giving us to the Ku Klux Klan. Okay? Like, in some cases, over $1 million. I mean, it's incredible.
Now, they say they're no longer using these informants.
Princess Diana, I have been waiting all week for your take on this. You have the floor, Your Highness.
Well, I think this is one of the biggest stories of our political adulthood, James. And I think that the media, the mainstream media, has been deliberately underplaying it. The way they framed it is that the Southern Poverty Law Center has had informants that they've paid, which sounds kind of like, 60 Minutes type of journalism, that kind of thing. And they're trying to basically sugarcoat what has happened. This is one of the biggest chess pieces taken off the board for the left that we have ever seen, because the tentacles of the Southern Poverty Law Center are everywhere. And it's fascinating that the Department of Justice mentioned the beginning of their investigation was 2014, because what happened during the Obama second term is that what had been going on with the SPLC and their hate lists, which I want to talk about, but it became entwined with the government under Obama, the Department of Justice. You remember those memos that the FBI under Christopher Wray and Obama had their field office memorandum on Catholics, on how they were the things we had to mostly fear is the traditional Catholics and confronting white supremacy. Those became the target of the FBI and large swaths of the Department of Justice under Obama, and the sourcing for those particular lists were directly the SPLC. And this is what happened when Obama appointed Kash Patel as FBI director. He severed ties in October of 25. He called the SPLC a partisan smear machine, and he ended a long history of cooperation on, quote, monitoring hate groups. So what the SPLC had long been doing and had been entwined with the media, it became a government problem, a government program. It was a nonprofit organization, and the way the left, the government under Obama and under liberals used the nonprofits and the NGO to carry out what would not be possible if it was something that people were up for election. So this is how they carried out, and Obama carried out, the racial divide increase that happened under his administration. And I just want to talk about an article in the New Yorker in 2019 by Bob Moser. This was when, if you remember, Morris Dees, one of the founders of the SPLC, he was fired. And it turned out that he had long been sexually harassing and personally discriminating against his staff. And so this had been known, as your CBS package said, since the 90s. There was a lot of journalism which looked into the running of this organization, which had a wonderful history of fighting the KKK, yes. But then it turned to basically making money on racism and increasing racism. And Bob Moser, who was a journalist, wrote after the firing of Morris Dees, who was basically a serial philanderer and wolf and hit on young women in his own office and was fired for it. And so Bob Moser, who wrote in the New Yorker, after having worked for the SPLC for years, he called the great building in Montgomery, Alabama, this glass tower that the SPLC owned, he called it a poverty palace. And he said that there is a fountain and a saying by Martin Luther King Jr. out in the courtyard. And the saying is, until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. It's a wonderful quote. And the people who worked for SPLC would walk by that quote and say, until justice rolls down like dollars. because that was the philosophy back in the 90s, and it was known. This was a money-making organization for a long time. And so when Bob Moser of The New Yorker revealed what had been going on, the sexual harassment, the racial discrimination, the staff was all African American, the management and top dogs were all white men. And so when Morris Dees was fired, a lot of these stories were written. And people thought, okay, finally, this horrible organization, which has been putting people on hate lists, including our boss, Rush Limbaugh, who was targeted by Hate Watch blog, which had been changed from Klan Watch by SPLC. They targeted Ben Carson, they targeted Turning Point USA, they targeted Family Research Council, which was responsible for a shooting by someone who said that he was motivated by the Hate Watch list that the SPLC gave every year. So the hate map and the hate list and the hate watch was basically a lot of normal conservatives got put on these maps, and they could not do business. This ruined reputations. It ruined organizations. Conservative groups could not raise money. They could not bank. And so the tentacles of this particular group went everywhere. And after all of these scandals came out in 2019, people thought, finally, the credibility of this organization will be hurt. But no. As of this year, they still were putting out their hate list, their hate watch. And as I said, they put Charlie Kirk's organization on it. And it's still all media runs with these lists and has enormous credit. It's the gold standard for the left. If your name or your organization is on that list, the tech bigwigs will put in the search engines. They take all of the analysis by the SPLC, and that affects all of what we see on the internet. If someone is criticized by the SPLC, you won't find any articles by them favorably about them on Google. And so if you look up anything on Google, it will have been vetted through the lists of the SPLC. And so the tentacles for this organization are everywhere, and their money is everywhere. They have an endowment of $800 million. And this has been part of, and I think it's very interesting that we've got the indictments of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. This is the tip of the iceberg, because the money laundering and the conspiracy, it touches so many other parts of the left. So to me, this is the beginning of a wonderful development, which, has been hurting America by fomenting racial hatred, because there wasn't enough of it in reality. So they had to create more of it. And so the corporate donations soared after some of these events, like the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, which your piece mentioned. This was something that was ginned up in part by the SPLC. And this was what Biden said caused him to launch his presidential race, was that Unite the Right rally. That was an operation by the left. That they created the Trump fine people hoax, if you remember that quote, where Trump condemned any kind of white supremacist, but the quote that was mashed up and went everywhere on the left had to do with that rally. And Joe Biden said that that's why he ran for president. This was coordinated by the left through many tentacles, and at the center of it was the SPLC. And the fact that finally the Department of Justice is indicting this group and is looking into it tells me that we are going to have some cleansing in this country finally.
Amen to that. I want to add to that when we get back from this break. James Golden, certainly here. Princess Diana is in the house. Folks, this is a huge story.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.